Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 27 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have a few sections that we'll get into, but it may not be the ones you're used to hearing. Let's get to our content for the week. We received a bombshell this week. Toronto Raptors big man Jontay Porter has been banned from the NBA for life. The news dropped on Wednesday. Wow. We've been discussing this story over the last few weeks. So basically, here's what happened. The center of the investigation was on prop bets on Porter's statistics. On March 20th, during a game against the Sacramento Kings, the NBA said Porter disclosed confidential information about his own health status to an individual known to be a sports bettor. Yet another bettor then wagered $80,000 on a parlay bet that Porter would not meet certain statistics, an under, which would have won $1.1 million. Porter's behavior raised suspicion when he removed himself from the game due to illness. The size of the bets were highly irregular, so the bet was never paid out, and an investigation was opened when the sports book reported the unusual activity to the NBA. Then there's this. 13 bets were placed in the last few weeks that netted Porter $21,965. Imagine throwing your career away over $21,000 when athletes make hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And what's the irony behind this? One of the bets in the parlay included betting on the Raptors to lose, and it didn't hit. So basically, he bet on his own team to lose. I guess he was taking classes from Professor Pete Rose or something. Then the Porter household received more bad news on Friday. Coben Porter, the brother of Michael and Jontay, was sentenced to 6 years in prison for killing someone in a drunk driving accident last year. He'll serve another 2 years concurrently for vehicular assault for injuring the passenger. Porter ran a red light and crashed into the Uber of Katharina Rothman. Porter's BAC, or blood alcohol content, was 0.19, over double the legal limit of 0.08. It'll be interesting to see how Michael Porter Jr. plays with the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs with all of this on his mind. Finally, for a more positive story, former LA Clippers superstar Blake Griffin announced that he is retiring. After his extraordinary career in LA, Griffin made stops in Detroit, Brooklyn, and Boston. He averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists for his career. Some of his career highlights included absolutely murdering defenders on poster dunks. Go on YouTube if you need proof. Although Griffin didn't win an NBA championship, he was part of the legendary Lob City days with Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan while on the Clippers. Griffin was a 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA second-team recipient, 2-time All-NBA third-team recipient, and the 2011 Rookie of the Year. This is a special edition of Diehlman at Halftime. I will go over my power rankings predictions from October and compare them to the actual standings by best to worst record. The headings for each section remain the same from the very first episode. If a team in the actual section is in italics, that means they lined up in the same spot in both the predictions and the actual standings, and I will tell you which ones I italicized. Some teams are ahead of others because of head-to-head tiebreakers. If two teams split the season series, my next tiebreaker was combined margins of victory for each win. This episode is entitled A Class of Their Own. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our first section, the elite teams. This is the top 10 teams in the NBA from 1 through 10. So my original predictions from October: the Denver Nuggets, Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors, Philadelphia 76ers, LA Lakers, Sacramento Kings, LA Clippers, and the Memphis Grizzlies. The actual standings: Boston Celtics, Oklahoma City Thunder, Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, LA Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, and the New Orleans Pelicans. My reasoning: in my defense, Memphis had a chance of being here had it not been for the injuries and the Ja Morant suspension. This section had a few of the obvious suspects, while some were flat out wrong on my part. Having Denver and Boston here were no-brainers. If you remember from my playoff bracket last week, that's my finals prediction. The Bucks and Suns came in back-to-back picks in both my original and actual predictions, but instead of second and third, they were actually 8th and 9th respectively. Both of them have something to prove in the playoffs. Was Doc Rivers really the best choice for Milwaukee? Can Phoenix make a deep run with their Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal trio? And don't forget about the LA Clippers. I was 4 spots off with them. LA has been seen as a title favorite all season long, and they were cooking Dallas on Sunday. If the Clippers want to go far, Kawhi Leonard needs to stay healthy since he missed Game 1. Also, James Harden needs to not disappear. Maybe my Warriors pick was way off, but Sacramento not being here shows how tough the West is. Let's go to our middle section, teams 11 through 20, entitled the You're Getting There But Not Quite teams. My original predictions: the Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, New York Knicks, Minnesota Timberwolves, Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Pelicans, Brooklyn Nets, Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, and the Utah Jazz. The actual standings: Cleveland Cavaliers, Orlando Magic, Indiana Pacers, Philadelphia 76ers, LA Lakers, Golden State Warriors, Miami Heat, Sacramento Kings, Houston Rockets, and the Chicago Bulls. My reasoning: this section could have been worse, so I can't complain. Miami's forte is in the postseason, so we'll see how that goes, even with Jimmy Butler out. I feel like the Cavaliers are so close to cracking the top 10, but they claim the top spot in this middle section. I was 1 spot off with them. New York and Minnesota took big steps in their development this season. Both are top 3 seeds in their respective conference, so I'll take that into consideration next season. Joel Embiid's yearly injury put the Sixers in this section instead of in the 6th spot in my original predictions. If Philadelphia gets bounced in the first round, though, then questions will need to be answered. As with Cleveland, I was 1 spot off with Chicago. I listed them at 19 instead of 20. The Bulls were eliminated by the Heat in the play-in tournament. That was probably for the best, since they would have been swept by Boston. Teams like Orlando and Indiana skipped ahead of the play-in tournament to clinch playoff spots. The young rosters they have should be exciting for the future. Finally, let's go to our bottom section, teams 21 through 30, entitled Code Red, This Is Not a Drill. My original predictions: the Houston Rockets, Oklahoma City Thunder, Toronto Raptors, Indiana Pacers, Portland Trail Blazers, Orlando Magic, Detroit Pistons, San Antonio Spurs, Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets. The actual standings: the Atlanta Hawks, Brooklyn Nets, Utah Jazz, Memphis Grizzlies, Toronto Raptors, San Antonio Spurs, Charlotte Hornets, Portland Trail Blazers, Washington Wizards, and the Detroit Pistons. My reasoning. Yeah, I really whiffed on the Thunder, Magic, and Pacers in this section. Then again, who would have expected Oklahoma City to go from a play-in team to the top seed in the difficult Western Conference in one season? Besides that, everyone else fell in accurately. Portland, Washington, Detroit, and Charlotte are all dumpster fires. I correctly predicted the Spurs were going to experience growing pains even with their exciting rookie Victor Wembanyama. Toronto is in a rebuild, but they have pieces for future contention. Houston was a tricky one. In the first episode this season, I said they could be a sneaky team in grabbing a low playoff or play-in seed. I was close, but the Warriors beat them to it. Remember a few episodes ago, we did Warriors-Rockets as game of the week. Teams like Atlanta and Brooklyn should be penciled in this section until they find some consistency. Even then, the Hawks might be trading Trae Young or DeJounte Murray this offseason. Unfortunately, despite some interesting draft prospects this year, there's no generational talent like Wembanyama. Once he develops his skills, though, the NBA is screwed. For most of the other teams in this section, they're already cooked. However, developing talent is a good place to start. So you might have noticed the lack of italics I mentioned throughout the rankings. The only one I got right was having the Washington Wizards as the second worst team in the NBA. So I had a lot of teams right in certain sections, or like I said in the beginning with the Bucks and the Suns being in the correct spots, but like not in the same like 2-3 versus 8-9 thing. But holy cow, 1 of 30 for predictions correct. Onward to the playoffs. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on SoundCloud. So the last 2 episodes have been special editions. Next week we will go back to normal episodes, including highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Now we'll be doing playoff editions from here to the rest of the season. So any teams that have been eliminated, we will not be talking about them for the rest of the year. So hopefully we will be getting some good playoff games in the coming days and weeks. As of this recording, every game won in the first round went to the home team, so we'll see how that turns out. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.